going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Welcome back to another episode of Match Day Reloaded, live, Panenka Studios, all that kind of stuff. It's difficult to do. And I feel like we've been saying this a lot on this show recently. The day after the night before, the day after our match day, the day after another Manchester United defeat, the day after another Manchester United home defeat, the day after another Manchester United home defeat by 3-0. We did it after the Manchester derby at the weekend, and now we're doing it again today because we have crashed and burned out of the Carabao Cup. We are no longer defending the trophy we won last season. We've gone out to the team that we defeated in the final last season, and it feels like really a tale of two teams since that Carabao Cup final in February earlier on this year, because since then Newcastle seemingly have gone strength to strength, continued their development and continued their growth under Eddie Howe and their new ownership and all that kind of stuff. And then what's happened to us? We have declined, and now we find ourselves in a situation where we are well and truly in freefall. And people can say, it's the Carabao Cup, it doesn't matter. That is right there, copium of the highest degree. We mock other teams. We mock Arsenal for saying we've got bigger fish to fry. But frankly, at least they did last season in the league. They were challenging for a title. This was meant to be the one thing that we won. You know, we couldn't even defend that. It was all of the defence of a Tyson Fury bout against Francis Ngannou in Saudi Arabia, realistically, wasn't it, yesterday? It was pathetic. It was putrid. It was toothless. It was nothingness. Absolute nothingness. And I mentioned on the full-time view yesterday after the game that yesterday was a real, not an eye-opener, because the eyes have been wide open for a few weeks now. And for quite, to be honest, we've been saying we haven't been playing well since February, since March. But yesterday was a real true concern for me because I saw a group of players, the players that started the game and the players that came on, and I said to myself, I don't know if the manager has control over them anymore. I don't know if they're really, truly playing or if they believe in what this manager's ideology is anymore. And that's not me coming on here this morning saying, get Erik ten Hag out, because I'm not saying that. I'm one of the people that subscribes to the belief of no matter how bad it gets, I think we should stick with him. I think Manchester United need to pick a lane and stick in it. And ride through the speed bumps. And my goodness me, they're massive. And we've got some massive damage to our car because we're going over them at 100 miles an hour. But at the same time, it's happening again. You feel like the cycle is repeating itself. We're into the territory now, like we had it the day before, with the players don't like training, the manager's too strict, etc., etc. We now see results. We now see jogging. We now see body language. We now see nothingness. And realistically, this is why I say we should stick with the manager, because who else? What's going to happen? Yeah, we get rid of Erik ten Hag. What do we do then? Let's bring in Roberto De Zerbi. He's the shiny new toy right now. Let's bring in him. We bring in him. Maybe there's a bit of a bounce. And then in 18 months' time, De Zerbi hasn't got the players he wanted. The structures at Manchester United, it doesn't work. He's fallen out with the players. He's too direct. He's too brutal. Although at the start we'll say we need discipline. These players need discipline. They'll get discipline, and then 18 months later, the discipline's too much. He's falling out with the players. He's too much of a dictator to this club, and etc. We've done this. We've done this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Every single time. And let's face it, last night, Manchester United rotated. We took out the players that we've wanted to see out the team. Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford. Didn't make any difference. We were still just as bad without them as we have been with them. And it's not as if, and I mentioned this on social media, I said that first half went, awful, absolutely awful, embarrassing, against Newcastle's C team, against a team that only had 2 players left in from the team they played at the weekend. Granted, they brought an Alma on. Okay, great. And then some people had the nerve to come back at me and say, well, it's not as if Erik ten Hag hasn't made changes. I said, are you taking the mick? I mean, look at that team still. Onana in goal. It had Maguire. It had Dalot, Lindelof. It had Casemiro, Mason Mount, Anthony Martial. These are international players. These are senior players. It's not as if we had a bunch of kids out there. In comparison, as I mentioned, I saw a tweet from the Magpie channel, Matty Renton's channel, and they tweeted this morning. And again, this sums it up. He said, I have to say this result is absolutely mental upon reflection. Kraft and Dummett as a centre-back partnership. Don't lose sight of that. Both barely kicked a ball in years. No striker in the starting lineup. They played Anthony Gordon up front. They had young fullbacks thrown at the deep end. And they beat us 3-0. So don't start coming back and saying, well, we rotated in that game too. Because it was a team full of international players that we've spent hundreds of millions of pounds on as well. Oh, they haven't played with each other that often. Some of those Newcastle players haven't played in years, let alone played together that often. So we can't be doing excuses. We can't be doing excuses. Oh, it's good that we're out actually of the Carabao Cup. That will benefit us. Where is the benefit of us getting absolutely smacked 3-0 at home by Newcastle? There is none. And again, I look towards the players and I look towards the manager and I say, This feels like it's only going one way, and it sickens me that it feels that it's going that way, realistically. That we're into this cycle again. And obviously, there are so many things wrong with Manchester United. Obviously, the structure at the club is rotten from the head down. Obviously, it's a systemic cultural decline because these players can get away with it. They know. They know they can get away with it, and they're doing it again. It's just ridiculous, honestly, absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, we're going to get into some managers' quotes and player quotes this morning as well. We're going to have some highlights from the game from Flex's point of view, certainly. Well, Flex's reaction, KG's reaction, Marcel's reaction, as well as Bradley and Good Vibes John, who, by the way, I think is just broken at this point. You know, let's just call him John at this point because the good vibes are far gone at the moment. Now, as far as the quotes from Erik ten Hag after the defeat, Ten Hag said, quote, "We know this is not good enough. I have to take responsibility. I feel sorry for the fans. Players will stand up. They are sticking together. You have seen that they tried. You have to do it as a team. That is the only way." And look, the thing is now, it's into the territory of, he has to come out and he has to say these things. But when you look at him as well, Erik ten Hag, and you look at his body language and you look at like his face and you look at the confidence in comparison to last season versus now, he just feels broken too. And it's not, someone mentioned this in the full-time view last night, and it's so true. Let's not sit here this morning and pretend that Erik ten Hag isn't a good coach and has never been a good coach, because we do this quite a bit too. We have a lot of revisionist history. Louis van Gaal, he's rubbish coach. Jose Mourinho, terrible coach. And these are good coaches. Like, Erik ten Hag was a highly sought-after coach across Europe because of the job he did at Ajax. And we've broken him down. We've broken him down again. And he comes out and says the players will stand up. I wouldn't hold your breath, Erik. I really wouldn't. Because we've been through this. And when push comes to shove, they won't. And as far as them sticking together, maybe they are, but not in the benefit of you. It's less so sticking together out of, cohesion. It's almost sticking together out of mutiny, it feels like at points. And again, as Roy Keane says, the Leopards don't change their spots. Certainly they don't. Ten Hag said, quote, "I'm a fighter. I know it's not always going up. We have had a lot of setbacks this season. I'm confident I can do it, but at this moment we are in a bad place. I take responsibility, but I see it as a challenge. I have to stick together with my players and fight together." So he says that the players are going to stick together, they're going to stick together, they're going to fight together. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, it's a case of, I'll see it when I believe it, when the players fighting, certainly. I mean, we can go through the individual players, and we will this morning, but I think a lot of it is bigger picture. And it's the manner of the defeats, isn't it? It's the manner. For instance, again, Manchester Derby at the weekend, we knew that we were the underdogs going into that one, despite it being at home. We're not that good, but if the players showed fight and they showed grit and not just toothlessness, you could go, oh, look, that's where we are. But it's just the collapse. I mean, really, it was sort of a replica of the game at the weekend. Apart from at the weekend earlier on, I felt like there was a couple of opportunities where we could have made something. Last night, we made nothing. I mean, Martin Dubravka was in goal. Did he have to make any save worth of substance? No. And I said, that's the Bravkarin goal. That's a Newcastle C team. And they played us off the park on our own patch. That was one of our things last season. We're good at home. I remember Marcel said we weren't going to lose at home this season. Look where we're at now. Get to these super chats, then we'll get to Flex's highlights. Lays is the latest member of the UV Members Club. Welcome to you. And T says, I want Ten Hag to stay, but letting Fred go was his biggest mistake. We needed him to sit on Bernardo in the derby, and he was Cassie's legs. We have no spine. This is the thing too, when it comes to this, and this was a conversation I was having with Marcel the other day. We do this a lot. We do that. And I don't disagree that we actually have missed Fred, particularly in those bigger games. But we're so focused on one issue, one player. This player's the problem. Ronaldo's the problem. De Gea's the problem. Whoever. Pick whoever you want. This player, Jadon Sancho this season, he's the problem. And then we focus on the solution. Sofian Amrabat is the solution to our problems. Andre Onana, he's the solution to our problems. Let's get Rasmus Højlund in. He'll be the solution. He'll fix it. We're doing it already with Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo will fix everything, even though he's a kid. And how many Premier League starts he's got under his belt? It's single figures. And maybe it's like 1 or 2. Maybe. He had a good pre-season. And then when we try that and it doesn't... Facundo Palestri, that was another one. Facundo Palestri, he's a solution to it. And it's far bigger. It's far bigger than all of that. And it's far bigger than one problem. I mean, I do look at what Ralph Rangnick said when he said it's not minor tweaks. It's not this player. Just get this player in. Let's get a ball-playing goalkeeper. That will fix this. It's not that. It's bigger. It's systemic. It is. And it's cultural. And it's up here with all these players. Ironically enough, Marcus Rashford pointed to his head all season, you know, and they're all mentality is completely shot, fragile, weak. And when push comes to shove, and this is the thing, like I said earlier on, that worries me, is they know some of them still might like Eric, and some of them still might be like, this is a madness. I can't believe what's going on here. It's a complete mess. But they know when push comes to shove, if it becomes an ultimatum kind of issue. It's us or the manager. They know what's going to happen because they've done it. Because they've done it before. The only thing that might be saving Erik ten Hag is I don't think they can afford to sack him at the moment. It could cost them a ton of money that United don't have. But the situation feels like once again it's getting toxic, and it's incredibly frustrating and jarring. Now, unfortunately for our sins, I'm going to make us relive last night through the eyes of Flex. Here are his reactions and highlights to the madness that was going on the pitch at Old Trafford last night.
There you go, 1-0 down, counter-attack, typical United, don't look after it. Almiron's come onto the pitch for a sub. And United are 1-0 down just like that. Haven't been good enough, haven't looked after the ball, not winning the ball back quick enough. Same old crap. Same old crap. They're all just standing there looking at each other, clueless as well. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Hall, bottom corner. Man United are an absolute mess. Ten Hag stares on in disbelief, like every single person in here, apart from the Newcastle fans over there. It feels like people are leaving. That's how bad it is. 25 minutes, 2-0 down. 35 minutes.
I'll tell you what, Fleck, they are.
People are leaving. I run out of words, mate. Run out of words. It's over. It's absolutely over. I weren't getting excited with the two little 3-4 passes straight after half time. Everyone getting excited for what? 3-0 done. Joe Willox passes it into the corner. Joe Linton dispossesses Amrabat. He gets to travel like 20 yards and strokes it into the fucking corner. We're done. We're done. There's no coming back from this, and I don't mean tonight. There's no coming back from this. It's done.
I used the analogy yesterday, and I think it's quite appropriate. Manchester United are a Frankenstein club. What I mean by that is we are a mishmash of parts that are just shot to life to make money, essentially. That's what we are. We've got players from David Moyes, from Louis van Gaal, from Jose Mourinho, from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, from Erik ten Hag. We've got a scouting and recruitment department that I think was largely overhauled by Louis van Gaal. I think we've got a fitness department that was overhauled by Jose Mourinho. And just like Frankenstein, like Frankenstein's monster, rather, there is no soul, there is no life, there's no pulse in this club. It's just shocked to life to make some money. It's masquerading at times as a football club, realistically, because it's not. It's a business. You know, let's make money. We got a new kit deal coming next year. You know, Snapdragon, that's cool. And this is why when all of this stuff's coming out about Ineos and effective sports and control, and there's going to be a football committee. There's going to be a football committee, and I've sat here numerous times on these shows or on social media and said, I've got so many questions about that. So many questions because the football committee, allegedly, if it goes through, who even knows if that will go through? I mean, the whole thing's been a shambles anyway. But if that does go through, it's going to consist of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford, not a footballing man, and Joel Glazer. And when you see that, you go, right, so you're going to have effective sports and control. You're still going to have a Glazer involved. All of this is a result of Glazer control. All of this that you're seeing on the pitch, that you've seen with the managers, that you've seen with the mentality of those players because they know they can get away with it, that comes from Glazer control. And when I question that and say, are we not concerned in the slightest they would have involvement in that? Are we not concerned that they might have a veto power involved in all of that? You get called a hater. You get called a hater. Why are you so anti-Ineos? Why are you so anti-Sir Jim? Why are you so anti-progress? We're anti-Glazers. We're anti-Glazer involvement. That's why when it goes back to the Qatari takeover, it wasn't about for me that, you just want oil money. That's what you want. You just want oil money. You just want to be like Man City. No. Man United don't need a sugar daddy. They don't. What they do need is to not have these current owners in control of the club. That's what we really need. And you get the product, and what you get is if they're involved, you get last night. You get last night and you get last week when they put out their accounts and they go, but we still got record revenue and we've still got profits. Good, right? Great. We got the revenue, we got the profits. The roof's leaking. We're out of competitions. We lose back-to-back 3-0 in the league as well. And we have this cycle again of managers going in, going out, and players giving up. That's the problem. And again, there are two arguments to it. They're both right. And that's not sitting on the fence. Larger systemic problems lead to what we have seen last night, lead to what we're seeing this season, lead to this cycle. But also, Erik ten Hag, he's not without criticism. This season, he has, some of the decisions have been baffling. And there are mitigating circumstances too. Yes, injuries, absolutely a problem. Player form, absolutely a problem. But realistically, last night, as I mentioned, was another big concern for me because he took some of those players out. He took those out and it's still bad, which makes me think this is much wider than just a couple of players are out of form. Our key players and favourites, they're out of form. They are all just shocking, and I don't know if they're trying anymore. I don't know. I really, really don't. And that really worries me because if he's lost, I think even, a section of that dressing room, then just like a virus, it will just spread. It will just spread. And even maybe some of the staunchest Erik ten Hag defenders in that dressing room will have in the back of their mind now, maybe this ain't working out. Maybe this ain't working out. But then I go back to, then who's it going to work out with? Well, you could drop Pep Guardiola into Manchester United in this current system. Yeah, and when I say system, I mean with the structure and all that kind of stuff. And he would fail as well. We'll break down the best coaches in the world. We break down some of the best footballing minds in the world. As Gary Neville said, it's become a graveyard. A graveyard for managers, a graveyard for players, and feels like a graveyard for fans watching the game every single week because you feel like you're near death. It's just, honestly, Another super chat, then we'll get to Flex's reaction. Glenn, who is a Liverpool fan, says, at this point, I feel bad for you. I understand you don't want to hear that, but it's sad to see such a giant club being rinsed by the Glazers. Big up. Well, then we are firmly in the mud then, aren't we? If even Liverpool fans are starting to feel bad for us, certainly. Let's go to some reaction outside Old Trafford. Here is Flex's thoughts about this madness.
That was Newcastle's C team. Absolutely pathetic. They had Dummett and Kraft. Ain't played in like over a year for Newcastle, and that's the easiest game back off injury they would ever have. And Man United just continue to just be in free fall. Ten Hag, I can't see how he turns it around. It looks like to me he's lost control. The players aren't buying in. They look clueless. We as fans, drop Rashford, drop Bruno, drop this player, drop that player. It doesn't matter who plays. We've seen this script before. And a lot of fans here have said it feels like the beginning of the end. And I don't know where Erik ten Hag turns from here. I saw some quotes that he said after that he's a fighter, and you know he wants to turn this around, and we need to be together and we need to cooperate. But the players aren't going to do it. The players aren't going to do it. He's not going to be able to stem this flow. You know, Man United are always in this situation over and over and over again. When you think that you're going in the right direction for a short time, bang, the reality hits you in the face at Man United, and then you're back to square one again, if not past square one again. You're back past that. Where do I even start today? Newcastle didn't even need to get out of first gear to beat us. All they need to do was be organised, be compact, and don't give away anything silly. And that's all that happened. For the first goal, absolutely pathetic. You've got Garnacho, losing the ball to Livramento and Reguilon going on the overlap. Livramento just carries the ball, keeps carrying the ball, goes past Mount like he's not there. Lindelof doesn't engage. Dalot doesn't see Almiron until it's too late. He arrives late. Goal, 1-0 down. As soon as it went to 1-0 down, I thought, forget miraculous comebacks. Forget last minute this, last minute that, Fergie time, all of that. Not going to happen. Not going to happen with the current confidence of this team. And that's exactly what happened for the second goal. Again, okay, it was a great strike by Hall. I'm not saying it wasn't. And Maguire's a bit unlucky to head it there, and it's a great strike. But before that, the prevention before that, Dalot, too passive, doesn't see Willock going in behind him. Just not stopping it at source. And before you know it, it's 2-0 down and it's over. Ten Hag at half-time scratching his head, having to make loads of make changes again, brings on Amrabat. Who else did he bring on? I can't even remember who the other player was. I'm so pissed off. But the changes didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. Sorry, and Wan-Bissaka brought him on. And then there's a little, the little 5-10 minutes of fake flipping, being on the front foot, trying to get the crowd up. It's all fake. We was never going to score tonight. And then all that happens, one little transition, Joe Linton wins the ball off Amrabat, and Willock goes back to prime Willock before Newcastle even bought him when he had that purple patch where he scored about 100 goals and then they decided to buy him. Puts it in the bottom corner. Game done. Well, game was done from before that. Insult to injury. Battered. Easy. That is Newcastle's C team. That Eddie Howe said, you know what, get the game won, then we'll bring on the fucking good players. Honestly, it is more than worrying right now at Man United, and Ten Hag is culpable. And you know what? If the players aren't going to buy in, right, which they're not clearly, you may as well just go now. This is what happens all the time. They've done the same under Oli. They've done the same under Jose. LVG was a little bit different, but you can see the way it was heading. You look at how decimated and how destructive the squad and how broken the squad was when Ralph Rangnick came in for that short temporary stint. And how can you go from where we were from winning the Carabao Cup to this? How? I'll tell you how. By bad recruitment, by leopards not changing their spots, as Roy Keane has told us many times, and of course the things that go without saying at the top of the football club with the Glazers. We know that. But this is what I mean. Look, all of this Ten Hag ain't got his first signings and all of this, the Glazers this and all of that stuff. We know that. That is 100% true. But you cannot look me in the eye and tell me that Ten Hag is getting enough out of that squad. He's not.
Big up Flex outside Old Trafford yesterday. Now, Erik ten Hag, I missed this earlier on, spoke about the support from the Manchester United fans after the game. And he said, quote, "We don't deserve it. in this moment because we are not giving top performances. We are trying, but trying is not good enough in top football. We know that. We have to do things better. I understand that when results are not there, it is a logical process to question the manager, but I am confident I can do it. At this moment, we are in a bad place. I take responsibility for it. I see it as a challenge. Now, I was thinking when Flex was talking there, I was thinking about the comparisons to Jose Mourinho and to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I think the comparisons are quite apt. I think when it comes to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, obviously, the comparisons are really the results. And actually, if you look at Ole's last season, there were those games where we were coming back a lot. And people were mentioning this a few weeks ago when we played Copenhagen and when we played Brentford and even when we played Sheffield United. People were pointing out after the game saying, look, it's not a good watch. And those late goals feel like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's last season when we're saying, look, the performances just aren't there. And it's great and it's euphoric and you celebrate those moments, but it's not good. And when we have these more difficult games, we will lose and we'll lose badly. And we know how that ended up. And I think the comparisons there with Ole in terms of the results. But I think with Jose, the comparisons there in terms of towards the end of Mourinho's tenure, you saw him on like the touchline and just, he felt like such an isolated figure. Like he felt like he was on an island by himself. And then there were the Man United players on another island, you know, and the communication almost wasn't there anymore. And he felt like such an isolated figure. And I looked at Ten Hag last night and I started to see those parts of it as well, where the separation between the manager and the players felt bigger and the gap felt more vast than it had done previously. And again, he looked like an isolated and sort of broken down man. And again, I really sympathise with him in that aspect because, you know, we talk about squad dynamics too. Are we really into the territory here where we're saying, oh, because the manager had, you know, falling out with one player in Jadon Sancho or a couple in maybe Ronaldo and they weren't happy with how the De Gea situation went, then we'll stop playing then. We'll get this guy sacked. Is that really the mentality? And is that really the mindset of some of these players? I didn't like how he treated my friend, so screw him. Let's not perform to our highest level. Let's not perform to our highest rate and screw this guy. Because that's what it kind of feels like too. There's that squad dynamics way off. The mentality of the players way off. And again, this might come across as, oh, you're blindly backing and defending Erik ten Hag. And I'm really, truly not, because I've questioned a lot of his decisions this season too. And he's not innocent in that. And we mentioned before, this wasn't the case last night, but if you're going to look at the season in totality, you know, his insistence on playing Marcus Rashford has backfired on him massively. His insistence on playing Bruno Fernandes has backfired on him massively. His insistence on, you know, pursuing with Antony has backfired on him immensely. The stubbornness and sometimes the late substitutions, it's hurt him. And we've said, you know, you pick your heels to die on, because when it comes to those hills, you will die on them this season. And it looks like that's going to be the case. Of course, it wasn't last night, but it looks like that's what it's going to be. You look at some recruitment as well. Mason Mount, number 7, £60 million. He played last night, but he's featured in and out of the season. Granted, he's been injured, but people at the time said that does make a lot of sense. Fast forward to we're in November, it looks like it makes even less sense. And a lot of things don't make a lot of sense. Diogo Dalot last night. And this is what I've been saying about right backs at United recently too. For me, Wan-Bissaka's the better right back, and he should be the starting right back, and thankfully he's coming back. But let's not sugarcoat it here. Both of them, realistically, if you want to win a Premier League title or you want to compete, both of them aren't good enough to be a starting right back. There are plenty better in world football, plenty better in the Premier League. And we saw that last night too. And we've kind of settled for mediocrity in that decision as well. And that's also a problem at United. That goes back to the bigger systemic issue. He's just got a new contract. We're in negotiations with Aaron Wan-Bissaka over a new contract. And again, all of that just is not good enough. All of it is not good enough. And as I said, I looked at, when you start getting into this sort of realm of poor performances and toxicity, you start looking at the body languages of not only the players but also the manager. And like I said, you looked at him and he just looked like an isolated figure, and it's not good. And I really, really hope that it gets turned around, and I really hope that maybe he's almost fortunate in an essence that United really can't afford to get rid of him at the moment, and maybe Ineos or Sir Jim Ratcliffe say, don't worry, we're going to figure this out. I don't know. But with that possibly being on the horizon too, it also concerns me because they're saying they're going to conduct a football audit when they come in. Maybe part of the audit is, what's it like in the dressing room at the moment? What's it like, the morale and the mood between the players? And if it gets back to him going, well, maybe we just need a fresh start. Maybe that could be the end of Erik ten Hag, right? Maybe that could be the end of him. And that would be, once again, another example of the players coming up with another excuse. In the same way that we do it. This player's the problem, this player's the problem. This manager is the problem. He doesn't get the best out of us. We did last season. You won a trophy, got to a final, finished third. Fastest manager to 20 wins. Going to be the fastest manager to 50 wins. But in the space of a few months, a couple of players leave the club or he falls out with. That's enough for some of these players. Get rid of him. Don't like that. Can't be mean to us. How dare he be mean to us? Almost like it's his job. Let's get some more reaction. Let's go to KG. Here are his thoughts.
I'm worried. I'm big time worried. I'm beyond worried. And I worry if the manager's going to make it. You know what I mean? I'm with the guy, but today is just another 3-0 at home. 3-0 at home is crazy. 3 back-to-back 3-0s at home. Today's supposed to be a day of response and something, but Man United's broken. That's what it comes down to now. Players are running around on the pitch. Players are not giving a damn. Players are not trying. Even you're bringing in different players. I've been on to this manager saying, drop Bruno, drop Rashford, drop all these players that are letting him down. What happens today, he makes those changes, and what comes in is even less quality. I can't even say even less quality because I even think when the players came on, they were probably worse than the players that started. So just all across the pitch, there's issues, there's problems all over it, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how you get a tune out of it, but that's not my job. It's Ten Hag's, and Ten Hag has to fix this, and he has to fix this soon because you just worry. It's a results business, and right now the results are not getting his way. And just looking at some of the decisions he's made, there's issues all over the pitch. We can start at the back. Onana took him time to get into the game in terms of being a Man United player. He's probably kind of found his feet, and the worst thing that can happen for Onana now is when he's trying to settle and find form is now the defense is doing a madness. And today, Delot, criminal behaviour. Delot, over and over again, we're just seeing nonsense. And I know Delot's played a lot of games this season, but Delot hasn't pushed on and made that shirt his. He hasn't made that right-back shirt his number one shirt. You're seeing Wan-Bissaka and you're like, thank God he's back. But then even when you say thank God Wan-Bissaka's back, all these players that were gassing saying, I can't wait for them to come back, well, how good are they going to be? Are they going to make us better? Are they going to make a difference? We've been hoping now there'll be Man United fans out there wishing for Amad Diallo to come back. That's just another dream and fallacy because what could he do in this team? No, not saying that he's not good enough, but I'm just saying that what we're asking for to come back, well, how good is it going to be? Because everyone that seems to come to this team comes in and does a madness. It's over and over again. It's trash. Delot, absolutely rubbish today. We talked about Lindelof playing on the weekend in the left-back position, and we thought, why the hell is not Reguilon playing? Well, the way Reguilon played today, you might as well just play Lindelof there. You see what I'm saying? So there's problems upon problems. You got Johnny Evans, you got Maguire and Lindelof at the back. It's just we can't clear our lines, can't do what we need to do. When I think about that third goal is just a madness. It's a breakdown in defence, and there's so many things. Amrabat, there's issues upon issues. So if I just talk about the back four, well, we've seen it. The back four today, horrid. No one could lift their head up and say, that's a proud performance. It's not a back four of an elite club. It's not a back four of a mid-table club. It's a back four of a team that has lost, 8 games out of 15. in all competitions. It is terrible. Then you go ahead of that, and then you see, and this is me, I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad. I'm beyond disappointed. I'm just like, it's apathy. It's beyond apathy at this moment. I'm looking at the squad, and then now you talk about the midfield. In the midfield, we tried today, we went with Casemiro, Hannibal, and Mount. A lot of hot sauce in there. You're looking at Hannibal and Casemiro, and both of them, like father, like son. Aggression, but aggression without the common sense at times. Both get a yellow card early. Mason Mount darting about, but what's going on? Nothing much really. And again, he's flattered to deceive. He's not done what he needs to do at Man United just yet, but I will give him the time. The same way I wanted to give Amrabat the time, I'll give him the time, but still, it's a signing that you look at and say, scratching my head. I'm scratching my head, wondering, why is this like this? Why does it look like this? We couldn't get hold of the game in the first half. We were trying, I think it was like 50-50 possession. We're supposed to be stronger in there. In games where we're playing against Newcastle's B team. B team. Now, we can say that some of our players were B team, but then Mount was not bought to be a B team. His numbers.
Big up KG inside UVHQ there. Big up to everyone on the match view last night as well. If you haven't already, click the like button. I know it's not a lot to really like about and all that kind of stuff at the moment, but if you haven't already, click the like button. We've got nearly 1,200 people watching, so let's see if we can get to 500 likes. Sirens in the chat. Because it's criminal. It's criminal is what it is. If that's the no like siren is what that is, yeah? No likes, no, the sirens start coming. I don't control it. I mean, that's a sign from above. So if you haven't already, click the like button and be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. Honestly, a bit of update when it comes to team news and injuries and stuff like that coming out of the game as well. Of course, Casemiro started the game, came off at half time. Erik ten Hag said after the game that looks like that was due to injury. So once again, Casemiro could be dealing with another injury at the moment. And it's not to put down like the injury or anything like that, because I hope it's not too bad or anything like that. But I mean, even with Casemiro, yeah, he played last night. He played alongside Hannibal. Look, I credit Hannibal's work ethic and his drive and his aggression, but he could have and probably should have been sent off in 25 minutes. He was very, very, very fortunate to stay on the pitch. And then you've got Casemiro, who's captaining the side last night. He's playing in midfield alongside this youngster. And what does he do? Does he go over to Hannibal and does he say, "Hey, you're lucky to stay on the pitch. Let's not do something crazy"? No, he gets booked straight away, right afterwards. And you just go. No, and again, last night was the Casemiro performance we've seen this season as well, struggled. And that's why, in fairness to him, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, when he visited Old Trafford and Carrington in March, he pointed to recruitment that we've seen over the last decade, but in more recent years, particularly last year, and said, why did you sign Casemiro for the length of money that you signed him for? Not to say that he's bad, not to say his Champions League that he's won has vanished or anything like that, because it hasn't. And not to say that he didn't play well last season, because he did play well last season. But where is the forward thinking involved with that signing? Where is the forward thinking of giving him a 4 or 5 year contract, signing him for £70+ million? I mean, Rich Darnold said it last summer. We're burning through cash. We still are. And the ironic thing is, since then, we've still done the same. Instead of actually being tangible cash, it's credit. We've burnt through credit. Because I think it came out that pretty much all of our signings have just literally done on credit. Because we don't really have any tangible money. So we're not burning through cash anymore, we're burning through credit. That's what we're doing as well. A couple of super chats here. Where we at? El Cap's been a member for 5 months, says Ten Hag with terrible football. Bold Ollie might sack himself at this rate, but until the Glazers leave, sacking another manager is redundant. Appreciate 5 months of support, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm not saying that Erik ten Hag is innocent by any stretch of the imagination. I think bad recruitment that he's been involved in. He's got veto power, and his agents heavily involved in that too. Him and John Murtough, they're in that. They're in bed together when it comes to recruitment. And some of the decisions, the insistence, the favourites has absolutely massively hurt him. But I still, after back-to-back 3-0 home defeats, I say, what's going to happen if you get rid of him? What are we going to do? Get an interim in? We've had the story of 2 interims in the past. We had an interim in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It was great. You know, we won matches. We had moments. The players were happy. Vibes were back. Ironically enough, just as he was becoming the permanent manager, the wheels fell off and we didn't qualify top 4 that season. But it was like, it's great. It's great. And then we saw how that turned out. We still ended up in the same cycle. We had the bad interim experience when Ralph Rangnick came in and it just got worse. And then we ended up with Erik ten Hag and we're still in the same cycle again. We saw Spurs last season too. They sacked Conte. They gave his right-hand man the interim job. He got sacked because it was still bad, and they gave it to Ryan Mason, and it was just a case of write off the season, wait for a new manager to come in, and look, it's working out well with Ange Postecoglou at the moment, but even with United, if Ange was in, and he was saying, mate, to everyone, and we would go, this guy's great, 12 months' time, we'd be like, I don't know if he's the right guy, Australian so-and-so. It's just, again, it's the same. It's Groundhog Day, Bill Murray, over and over and over. Glenn says, I wasn't being condescending, just wanted to clear. I didn't think you were, Glenn. I appreciate the super chats and appreciate the contribution. T says, Ten Hag lost Leacher, which changed the way we play. His midfield now drops deeper to build play, where Leacher could do that before, just wait on our injuries. But even that, T, yeah, and I've seen lots of people pointing out the injuries, and specifically the one to Lisandro Martinez, and I don't get me wrong, I get it that we've got injuries, and I get that Lisandro Martinez was a big part of that. But it's beyond this season. We haven't been playing well since like February of this year. We haven't played well for a long, long time. And are we really saying that one player, Lisandro Martinez, not being involved in all of this, causes all of this? Causes all of this? Is that what we're really saying when it comes to that? Because it's bigger than that. And again, that goes back to my point earlier on. We focus so much on one thing. It's just this player. Once we get this player back, it's going to be so much better. You know, it's going to be way, way, way better. Don't get it. Oh, don't worry about it. It's just that's what it's going to be. But it's not. It's not been like that for a while at United. When he gets back, of course we'll play better. But the issues, the fundamental issues will still be there. They will still be there because they've always been there. And also as well, again, I look at some of those players and I say, when Lisandro Martinez gets back into this team, are suddenly those players that are looking like they're not playing for the manager anymore, they're going to start playing for the manager? Because I don't know if they are. And don't get me wrong, like I said, Lisandro Martinez, huge difference. He is. You know, but it's just... we focus so much on this is the solution. This is the problem. This is the solution. Don't worry. That's what it's going to be. And again, that's not to say when those injuries come back, we will be better. We will. But when we've had a defense fit earlier on in the year, and it wasn't better. We've been playing like this for a while. We have. And people forget that. We started getting involved in the revisionist history. I remember so Anthony, after that Arsenal game, of course, went away for a few weeks, went back to Brazil. And by the time he came back, people were starting to say, good, Anthony's coming back now. That's the right-hand side sorted. And I went, wait a minute. Like 3 or 4 weeks ago, people were cussing this guy, saying he's terrible, he's rubbish. A few weeks away, and then suddenly it's good, he's coming back. And now we're doing the same thing again. He's rubbish. He's rubbish. And Martinez, I remember saying it in pre-season, let alone this season, that clearly there was still something way off with him and his foot was screwed up. And I remember people in the chat saying to me, he wouldn't have been cleared to come back if he wasn't fit. Clearly he wasn't fit. He had another operation on his foot. Forget this season, I mean last season as well, with Lisandro Martinez. Like, there were, again, around sort of February time, or towards the end of January, he was still available then. It wasn't until late March, mid-March, whenever it was, that he got injured against Sevilla, and that was it. I mean, been playing well for a long period of time. In fact, ironically enough, part of our best, and this isn't to say, we're better without Martinez. Clearly we're not. But I remember last season, after the World Cup, Martinez didn't play for a while, and we were getting results. We beat Manchester City without Lisandro Martinez in the back four last season. That's true. So that's why I say it's not just one thing. It's not just one. It's always not just one thing. WJ Barrett says, Owen, leaks training a problem, player power at its finest. Eric Ten Hag's days are numbered. Tools have been downed. The players are too precious. It's over. That's my worry. That's my concern. Let's go to more reaction. Let's go to Marcel. Here's what Marcel had to say.
You've got individual performances that have been absolutely shocking. You know, Delos basically watched his marker run past him to make a finish in action. Garnacho has dribbled into a blind alley, lost the ball, waiting for Mount to make good recovery. He can't make a good recovery. I just think it's, bad habits across the whole team. And Ten Hag's just got a difficult choices to make because it's a bad player replacing another poor quality player.
Who's to blame for this, though? Who's to blame for this poor form and Man United being in this way?
There's so many things that we can look at, in terms of injuries, the previous 10 years of purchasing players on astronomical on their wages and them giving us poor performances. But if we're talking about this fixture now, I think there's a portion of the blame that has to be going on Ten Hag in terms of being adaptive in the game, making the right choices in the game. But for him to be, having this squad at his disposal is not his fault, if that makes sense. Players should have been out. Part of backing up a manager is holistic. It's about being able to get players out when he needs to get them out and to be able to get players in. And having Maguire starting for the football club, having Lindelof around, having Martial still starting for the football club with his massive set of injuries, that's maybe a little bit of a reason as to why we're in this situation.
Just to push back though, because you're saying this and you're saying some of these things, but the manager signings that he's brought in have not worked yet. You talk about Onana's trying to find form. Anthony, another player that we could mention. Mason Mount, another player we could mention probably now. It's very soon. It's very early. Amrabat. There's players in there. Højlund's still yet to score his first Premier League goal. When you say get the manager what he wants, but what manager's brought in hasn't showed up yet.
I mean, there's so much dysfunction in the club for us to be able to get a good, proper look at what's not right and what is going wrong. Højlund hasn't played that many football matches yet. Mason Mount's picked up an injury and then trying to find the form. Amrabat had one very good game at left back and has been shocking in the defensive mid positions. But we need for him to get a consistency and a fluency in somewhere and to get partnerships going. So Ten Hag's had it difficult in terms of getting stability. But with what he's had, I do understand that people maybe want to get results and that, we're not even seeing results or performance. He has to sort it out. I'm just trying to say that he requires time and we must give him time and patience because there's so much dysfunction.
Because a lot of people use the Arsenal analogy saying, look what Arteta did when they were really poor and stuff. But there was one set, people talk about seeing something. What are you seeing in our team's performances going forward? Currently,
right now, a lot of dysfunction. But when we were operating well, a good defence, the ability to play from the halfway line and good turnovers and good transitional football. When we were playing well. Right now, in the dysfunction, there's not a lot to be shown. And that's a fact, and we can all see that. But give it time for footballers to come back to heal the dysfunction. Give it time for him to play 10 or 5 games with his style of football because he's had to revert back. We can all see that. He's had to revert back. And
has he reverted back, though? I don't even think he's reverted back. I can't explain what this is.
So the reason why I feel like this is reverted back because he's not playing that 3-1-6 for me. He's playing more of a 4-2-3-1. The reason why it's reverting back is because I'm not seeing a lot of the 2-8s playing in the half space enough, and I haven't seen enough 3, 4, 5 games of Amrabat in the lone DM. So and Anthony's come in and out the squad. There's just so much dysfunction for me to say that it's actually something that he is trying to play. Also, but my confusion is that the fact that he says that he didn't want to play the Ajax style as well. So does that mean he's trying to go away from specifically Ajax style or a possession style of football?
Big up Marcel talking to KG afterwards, and it's that last bit that Marcel was talking about there, and that's what I think has been a big concern for a lot of people since that quote came out about him saying, we weren't going to play like Ajax. We were never going to play that Ajax football. And obviously people have taken that in different directions. People have pointed it to, he just meant it literally. We're not going to play exactly like Ajax because he doesn't have the exact same players. So he's not going to play exactly that style. But I think the concern is that people look at that and they look at the performances recently and they look at the coach and they say, well, okay then, then what is the idealized version of Erik ten Hag? What does he want us to play like? What principles does he have? What principles does he want Manchester United to have? Because you're not seeing it on the pitch, and now he's saying it's not realistically what we saw at Ajax either. So then you go, well, what is it then? Have you abandoned your principles? Were they your principles in the first place? What did Manchester United hire you for? It must have been based on what you did at Ajax and what the football that we were seeing at Ajax. I mean, John Murtough said that when we announced that we were signing Erik ten Hag in the first place, because it was, attacking, attractive football. And we're not seeing that. And granted, again, I know, because then people push back, well, the injuries and, he can't play that style of football. But still, when you're losing games and you're losing them badly, you still want to have that light at the end of the tunnel. Because if you could see how Manchester United are trying to play, then you could say, well, when we do get these players back, that will make this better. They will enhance what we're trying to do at the moment. But we're not even really seeing, I don't think, what we're trying to do. We're going long. Then sometimes we try and play out from the back. Last night, we had like nearly 70% possession. It didn't really matter because we didn't have control of the game. So you can't... now it's getting to the point where you don't really see the plan. What is the plan? Is it to be playing Ajax style? It must be. I mean, we got in Onana, to play out from the back. Granted, I get that maybe the defense isn't there to play out from the back at the moment, but I don't know. Like I don't know when it comes to that. It's wild. Let's get some more reaction outside Old Trafford. Flex spoke to Bradley.
Lost for words, to be honest. There's no point even being angry at this point because we're just awful, and it was almost like we just had to be accepting of it today. And I think Ten Hag's completely lost the dressing room. And I hate to say it because I had high hopes for him, but what I'm seeing is the players don't even want to run or jog or anything. They're just walking. It's like pedestrian.
Is it that for you? Like they've given up. They've down tools. He's lost the dressing room. He can't turn that round. Like
in moments last season, like you saw the players fist pumping to get the fans up. They're not even doing that. I think the only player that did do that was Hannibal, and he's a young kid coming through. So that's just embarrassing for the senior players.
It was absolutely shocking, and we looked at that Newcastle team before, and you said if Man United don't have a good performance against a much changed Newcastle team, they got to rotate loads. We made a lot of changes as well, but something's wrong. But also the manner of that defeat was absolutely shocking.
Schoolboy errors today, and it was their B team today. It wasn't even their first team. What are we going to do when we go to St James's Park when they play their first team, Premier League? We've got Anfield coming up. We've got Copenhagen coming up next. It's just looking like it's going to go from bad to worse. And it's
almost like you try and find the bits of positivity. You try and see if we're improving and try and put a marker down and say, okay, well maybe we are going in the right directions at sometimes. Then you end up back here at square one. There's a cycle just keeps going on and on and on.
Do you know what? If we do end up getting a new manager with the Jim Ratcliffe thing, we need to hire the director of footballing first, and then he can pick the manager. So then the whole streamline of the football club is on the same page, because it just looks disjointed and it looks like strangers. It's like they've never spoken to each other before.
Do you think we will end up with a new manager? Like, do you think Ten Hag can stem? It's almost like there's a big wound, isn't there? There's a big bleed, and it's just pouring out right now. Can he stem the bleed? Can he start getting some results, or do you think this is the beginning of the end?
I think it's the beginning of the end, and now I can actually understand why Sancho hasn't apologised.
Why do you think?
Because I think if all the players were on Ten Hag's side, I think Sancho might feel the pressure to apologise because he's thrown himself under the bus. But actually, I think because it looks like the players have lost all faith in him, he lost the dressing room. Actually, Sancho's like, maybe Ten Hag's going to go before I can go. I'm like, I don't want it to be like that, but that's how I see it.
Do you still believe in Ten Hag? Honestly, as I talk to you now, and I know it's hard, right? Do you still believe in him?
Not really.
You don't?
I think he's sacking himself. I think he's making poor errors. Like Mason Mount was terrible today. Anthony, he does these stupid spins and rolls, and it doesn't do anything. It just slows down the game.
And it was one of them today, isn't it? Like, normally when there's a bad performance, you might say, you know, there was a couple that were bad and you home in on maybe one or two who were particularly bad. Today, it was literally from front to back. I mean, okay, Onana couldn't do anything about the goals that went in, apart from him. All across the pitch, littered with mistakes, littered with players not running, littered with no accountability. And I think you said it before, someone else said it round me. Newcastle didn't even need to be great to beat us today. Nobody ever needs to be great to beat Man United.
Yeah, I said they couldn't get out of first. They didn't need to get out of first gear. Like some of the errors today, it looked like the passes were just half-hearted. Like it was almost like they weren't even like keeping care of what they were trying to do. So, and these players have to take a lot of accountability as well, because like their professional pride's on the line.
Big up Flex and Bradley talking outside Old Trafford last night. A couple of super chats here. WJ Barrett with them both says, first of all, we championed his tough decisions, Maguire, Ronaldo, Sancho, but we know the players are together and won't be happy. Lindelof being captain next to Maguire didn't sit right with me, felt a bit weird. We've got more captains than goals and points in the last few games, isn't it? Lindelof, Casemiro, Bruno. It's just all of it. All of it. But again, this is, I think you bring up a good point in that this is why I say we can't keep doing this cycle over and over again, because the players will get the manager sacked. And then what we will say, whether it's an interim or whether it's a permanent person that comes in, we'll say, what we need someone that's going to be tough with these players, is going to be disciplined. No more player power at Manchester United. No more player power. We can't go through this again. And then we bring someone in, they maybe do something that's disciplined, or they draw a line in the sand and they make a decision, we go, good. And then a few months later when it happens again, we go, wow, he's falling out with the players. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I don't know. What are we doing with all that? WJ Barrett also says the decisions are mounting and could be problematic. T says, not relying on one player, but Leach completely changes the way we build up play. Just like Liverpool, their season improved when they got injuries back. And again, I think maybe you might be misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm not saying that our performances won't improve and they won't get better when our better players get back. That's totally logical, and they will. But my thing is now that I think it might be beyond the point of no return. And also, we can't also pretend like we were this fantastic team. You know, we've been this fantastic team for a while, and it's just getting this player back in or this player back in. It'll get better. But in terms of the overall issue, we haven't played. If you look at the calendar year of 2023, we've played well for 2 months out of it. We're in the 11th month. And he's a massive loss, Lisandro Martinez. Don't get me wrong. One of our players of the season last season, and of course he'll improve us. And playing out from the back, that will get better. But I mean, at this point, you say to yourself too, by the time he even gets back, is Erik ten Hag going to even be the manager? Because he's not going to be back until 2024. You know, when in 2024, I don't know, but it might be February, March or something like that. And by that point, it might even be like a year since he's been out in the first place with all of these 2 surgeries and the comeback involved in all of that. So, and again, that to me is not an excuse for Marcus Rashford being horrifically out of form, Bruno Fernandes, the captain, being petulant and being terribly out of form, Casemiro, his levels dropping off completely. If we give them a pass and say, well, you know, build up from the back is difficult, then that just negates their lack of accountability as well. That plays into their hands of going, it's just injuries. You know, we can't get past. And again, that's not to say that we won't improve when we get Martinez back. You get your better players back, of course you're going to play better. But also, we can't be naive to say that that's the total solution. That's the total solution. That's the total problem. You know, it's just that one injury or just that. GJE says, and the players win again. Typical United, stinks. And WJ Barrett says, for the record, I am Erik ten Hag in. Players need to go, which is the camp that I'm in at the moment. I certainly, Erik ten Hag is not innocent. He is not beyond reproach. He has made big mistakes this season, strange decisions, strange tactics at point, in my opinion, strange comments as well at points, which again reminds me of sort of end of Jose's tenure. But there are clearly bigger bigger issues. Obviously, structurally, the ownership, that's a massive problem. The player power is a massive problem too. And also, just for me, I also just said we can't keep doing this. You know, United have to stick to a lane, stick to a manager, and ride it out as bad as it gets. Even if we do finish 8th, if we finish 10th this season, just go, you know what, it was shit. You know? And prove to the players that as bad as it gets, and as much as you stop playing, you'll go, not the manager. You know, United need to prove a point to that. But do I trust Man United to do that? No, I don't. My worry is they'll listen to the players. Final reaction of the day is from Good Vibes John. And spoiler, the good vibes aren't really there at the moment.
The last match review after the Manchester derby, I sat here staring at the camera. Couldn't open my mouth for like the opening 3 minutes. I felt bad for Owen because he probably was watching that like, what is he doing? I was hoping and praying that Manchester United would come away with something better. Newcastle, fair play to them. They came out with a second string. Maybe Miguel Almiron coming on because of that forced injury maybe brought a bit more of that quality that maybe shocked Manchester United. I don't know. But fair play to Newcastle because they came to Old Trafford as if they came to practice. They came to have a blast. They looked like they were having fun. They were cheering, playing easy football. Manchester United, I don't know. Good vibes, John. I am always going to back the manager and always going to back the players until no matter what. But today's performance was nothing short of shocking, garbage, humiliating. Losing against one of the arguably the greatest teams in the world right now in the world of football against Manchester City. Whatever. I mean, the way we lost was unacceptable. I thought we would show more fight, we should show more bite, but this season it hasn't been shown at all. I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to bounce back, and we've shown much of the same, if not worse, considering our opposition not even having fielded their strongest 11. I thought Miguel Almiron coming on early maybe could have been a bit of an unexpected change in positive energy for Newcastle. I don't know, but Manchester United were nothing. I waited to do this video till the very end because I wanted to hear what Erik ten Hag had to say. I really wanted to hear what he was going to say. And this is the quote that I have. He says, "I have to take responsibility for it. It's below our standards and I have to put it right. We have to raise our standards. This is not good enough. I am confident that the players will stand up." It's getting harder and harder to stand by this confidence. We Manchester United fans, us Manchester United fans who support and follow the club, we know that there are problems beyond Erik ten Hag's control. We understand with respect to decision-making up top, the board, the ownership, the recruitment. There's so many issues with Manchester United that's been out of Erik ten Hag's control. The amount of crap he's had to deal with, I can't even imagine. But today, for the sake of talking about the match, we have to talk about what went wrong. Before I talk about Erik ten Hag, I want to talk a little bit about the players because I thought some of those players, they should be ashamed of themselves. Some of these players, they came out tonight and I don't know what their objective was. I want to talk about two players in particular today. I want to talk about Diogo Dalot and Antony. Let's talk about Diogo Dalot because defensively, you guys know, if you've been following me for a long time now, since Aaron Wan-Bissaka has joined, I said that Manchester United should field a right back whose main job is to defend and he's good at it. Diogo Dalot, don't get me wrong, is a decent defender on his day, but many people prefer him because of his attacking contributions. Attacking as a fullback is something that maybe we need to look at later down the line. Manchester United right now can't even do the simple things right. If we can't do the first job right, which is to defend as a defender, why are we talking about looking as a fullback who can attack? Man's got to first focus on defending. Diogo Dalot is not the same defender as Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And today, that again just showed. As much as I love Diogo Dalot, I think he's a phenomenal guy. He just isn't good enough, and he wasn't good enough today. He might score us, he might get us out of trouble with some hero ball plays and scoring and whatnot. But I've said it for years now. I don't like watching Diogo Dalot and Antony on the right-hand side because both want to play hero ball and both are too attack-minded, and one of them can't even attack properly and the other one can't defend properly. What kind of balance is that?
Big up, John. Again, good vibes. Kind of. It's sad to see John like that, isn't it? Good vibes, John is just, he's broken, and like we all are certainly at the moment. But there you go, guys. Another episode of Match Day Reloaded. Appreciate everyone tuning in this morning, and appreciate everyone sharing their thoughts, getting involved in the chat. All of the members, all of the people, no members as well. As for what's on tap for the remainder of the day, I believe there's going to be a reaction from Flex coming in very soon as well. Kind of reflecting on, everything that's happened in the last, 12 hours or so, certainly. Sometimes that's why these shows are good, isn't it? You wake up the morning after, and not that you feel differently, but you've had time to process and digest certain things, and you've been thinking about things, meditating on them a little bit, and then you come out with, something you hadn't maybe thought of before in the heat of the moment, the reaction of the moment. So that's going to be coming later on today as well. And also we're just a few days away from another game. The games keep coming thick and fast. Premier League, Fulham away, 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. So of course we'll have previews and press conferences and the build up to all of that. And then we'll be live Saturday for the match view and hopefully the fallout of some semblance of a reaction. I don't know if that's out of expectation, hope, or maybe delusion. I don't know. Have a great Thursday, guys. I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.